Hi, and welcome to the next lesson in the blending mode class at Hummy's World. This blending mode for today's lesson is the multiply blending mode. And as I've said in the introduction, it's all about the math. And now I'm not going to do math with every single one. We're just going to kind of do and touch on the basics of the math so that you understand how it works. But we're going to more so focus on the sample here in this file that we're looking at the beginning of each lesson so you can study it and understand the results. The results is kind of more important than how it gets there. But it is fun to see that these are all mathematical. Some of them get too advanced, and we won't touch the math. We'll just tell you what the math is. But this one is easy to see, and I think it helps you understand. So the multiply blending mode multiplies the number of the bottom and top layers and then divides by 255. Try it. So we're going to try it. So let's make this invisible, then my text layer, and we're going to look at this gradient and blocks. Now you'll remember that black is the number 0, and white is the number 255, and 50% grayscale is 126. So if I look at black on the color picker, it's 0. And if I click up here in the corner for white, and I'm going to click on this box so we can get absolute white, you're going to see it's 255. And if I put 50% right here in brightness, it goes to, well, it's 128. It's not supposed to be that. It's supposed to be 126, I believe. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's close enough. Maybe it is 128 and I'm a little off, which means I just edited this file for nothing to make it 126. But anyway, let's do the math. So we learned that we multiply the top and bottom layer and divide by 255. So we know this is, black is 0, and we know that, well, let's make a black layer underneath. So we know the layer underneath is black. And so if we blend, if we do the math, here's my calculator, and you probably don't even have to have the calculator for this, but 0 times 0 is 0, and you divide it by 255, it's going to equal 0. And the color 0 is black. And so if we blend this in with the multiply blending mode, you're going to see everything turns black, because actually the background being black is 0. So anything times 0 by any color number, even white, which is 255, let's see. Here we go. I mean, this is math, but for some of us who don't remember math very well, anything times by 0 is going to be 0. So even if we do 0 times the 255 of the white, you're going to get 0 divided by 255 is 0. So basically, if you have black anywhere on either layer, it's going to be black. And let's see if we look at the white. So we have, well, we're already seeing the results. Well, I'll go ahead and leave it there at the multiply blending mode. So, but to talk about the math, so white is, let's see, where's the clear? White is 255, and if you times it by white, you're going to get this crazy number, 65,025. And of course, if you, I don't know what I just did there. I made it a negative somehow. Okay, 255 times 255 divided by 255, you're just undoing the equation, and you're going to end up with 255 again. So if you have white on white, then it's going to be white in the multiply blending mode. But that would be the only instance you're going to have white. And so if we take off this layer and we look at what happens, let's go back to normal. Here's our graph, and we have black, which is 0, into the green, and so the black, anything times 0, it's going to stay black. And then it's going to actually just darken everything up is what it does. If you go into, I don't know what color this green is, what number, where's my eyedropper tool? I'm just going to use, I don't know what number this is. When you have multiple numbers in here, I'm just going to choose the 128 as an example. So we're going to clear this, and we have the grayscale of 126 times the 128 equals, and divided by the 255. And so you're going to get a result around 63. And so let's go ahead and apply the blending mode. And so eyedropper on this color, and then open it up, and oh, look at that, 63 right there in the middle. So you can see that's kind of how the math works. But let's go back. Normal. So we're going to see it normal here, and I want you to observe exactly what happens when you do the multiply. Everything gets a little bit darker. So here we've got normal, and then we have multiply, and you see the white totally disappears, and the black stays black, and everything in here gradually gets darker. So that's the important thing that you need to know. You need to know what happens to the black, what happens to the white, and what happens to the everything overall. It gets darker. The reason this is important is, one, if you have a black texture or a very dark texture and you apply the blending mode, it's going to make everything look very dark. If you have an almost white texture and you apply it, it's going to make it darker but not quite as dark. And the important thing here is that anything with white in it is going to totally not make a change. So if I have a texture that maybe has a tear in it, a white tear across it, and I blend that using the multiply blending mode, what is going to happen with that section where there's a white tear? That white tear in the texture is going to be just like this right here. It's going to disappear. You're not going to be able to see it. So if you have a white tear and you're wanting to see it, you're not going to be wanting to use the multiply blending mode, because it's just going to disappear. Unless you want it to disappear. I mean, you may want that tear to disappear because you like the rest of the texture. So that's something to keep in mind. So let's go over here. And here is my final photo. It took me a long time. It is more difficult to work with these dark blending modes because when I say dark blending modes, I mean this section right here, darken, multiply, color burn, linear burn, and darker color, because they all are the dark section, and they all make your photos darker. So these are actually a little more difficult to work with unless your photo is blown out, unless it is overexposed. The multiply blending mode is great for fixing overexposed photos, and I have a lesson on that in the photography class. If you want a link to it, just let me know, and I will help you find that tutorial. But but if you're just using this blending mode by itself without any other blending modes in conjunction with it, it is difficult to use just this one because it'll make your photos really, really dark. But that's my challenge for you. I want you to use only the texture I give you and only the multiply blending mode so you can learn about it and make yourself think outside the box. At the very end of the class, we're going to be doing some extra lessons and combining blending modes. So right now, I want you to stretch yourself and see what you can do with these, with just the multiply blending mode. So we're going to deconstruct what I got going on here. I have right here, this is the texture I'm giving you. It's kind of cool. It's actually got some little swirlies in here, and there's actually some text in there from actually some old birthday cards. There's some text in here too, but you can't quite see it, but it's got swirlies everywhere and torn pieces of paper. And so I'm giving you a lighter texture so that it will work with more of your photos. If I'd given you a black one, most of you are going to fail, or a dark one, which I have a dark one in this version of this texture, but giving you a dark texture. If you're playing with textures, we're going to be learning this at the end after all of the lessons. You can, of course, always hit Control U and lighten the texture some if you need to. So here's my original photo, and here's the quote I picked with it. Art is not what you see, but what you make others see. And so I thought the window would be great to go with this quote, and what we make people see on the other side of the window, which just kind of all seemed fitting. And so I tried putting this pink background on it to see if that would make the pink and draw out the pink of the dogwood out the window. And I added the texture, and I applied the multiply blending mode, and I got this. Well, that's okay. It's kind of cool, you know. And if this works for you and what you're doing, certainly go ahead and add a color layer below your photo, and in what you're playing. Maybe you want to blend this photo down in here with a mask. There's so many different things you can do with your photos. I can't wait to see you play. But I decided, you know, this isn't really working for me. And so I ditched that, and I just stretched my photo out. And I said, okay, this is working for me a little bit better. Here is your paper off and then on. So that's pretty cool. I think it works. We're doing good. My paper off and then on. It really gives it a whole new look. If I scroll in, you see it's actually, you know, got some grungy stuff here. It's got some grungy stuff showing up around the edges. This stuff you're seeing, if you will recall, let's undo it to normal, is, if you will recall, whatever's black stays black. And so you see this grungy stuff along the edges and right here in the texture. That's what's staying black. Whatever is black in here is staying black. Here's the grungy stuff down here. This black in the corner. It's all staying black. This is black on the edges of the paper that was glued down, the shadows. That's what's staying black when we change it to the multiply mode. And so, and then everything in between that is making this get kind of grungy cool out here. So we have normal. Whoops. I should just leave that multiply. We have it regular and with the texture. And you can see that's really cool how that works. It just does just something little to it. But then I said to myself, well, but it made my photo dark too. So what am I going to do? And I added these two layers, which I'm just going to reconstruct for you. This one is Vibrance. Now you don't have Vibrance in Photoshop Elements, but you can do just the hue and saturation adjustment layer. But I did Vibrance, which is in the full version of Photoshop. And I bumped up the saturation, which you can do that part in Photoshop Elements, and it's just as good. And then I bumped up the Vibrance also. My dogs are fighting over a bone in the kitchen if you hear them barking. Those girls, they'll show up in my videos sooner or later. They do. So there's the Vibrance. So on and off with the Vibrance, and it really made a difference. It really, you know, it was what I'm making others see in my art. And then I decided that wasn't quite good enough because it was still kind of too dark for me. And I decided to show you another technique that you can do with any of these lessons and still stay in the box of the scope of the lesson. I decided to make a new adjustment layer for levels. And then I changed the level because the photo's kind of dark. So I moved this over to brighten it up. But now you see, I guess I could leave it that way. But here's the tip I'm going to give you. You can apply blending modes to adjustment layers. So I'm going to, since we're working with the multiply and I just want us to stick with multiply, I applied the multiply to that levels, and now it still seems pretty dark. So I open it up, and what's great about the new adjustment layers is that you can see what's happening live. So I just, whatever, I don't know what, I played with it for a while. So here's the before. Well, that's not making too much of a difference. It did on my other one. I'm going to hit this. Nope. Maybe it's making more of a difference than I realize. It is. And here's the one actually I played with. Ooh, I guess I made it much darker. It's much more dramatic. Open it up. There's where I stopped. But I want to show you this levels is doing, it's probably because my Vibrance is different than the other one. That's probably what's making the difference. Instead of doing this levels, I could duplicate my photo, do Control L, make these same changes, change it to the blending mode of multiply, and have the same effect, the same exact effect. But I'm going to delete that because what's great about having the levels on an adjustment layer is that you can see the changes live as they're happening. There we go. That's more like what I had before in the other one. So That's what's great about doing it on the adjustment layer instead of on a duplicate of the photo layer, as it can get the same effect. And if it's also too much, you remember you can lower the opacity. You can do all sorts of things to make these uh, until something pops and you go, aha, that's it. And so it took me a long time playing till I got the aha, and I said, okay, that's it. I think that's it. I think people are getting the idea. They're looking out the window and they're what I'm making them see, which is the dogwood and the vibrant, beautiful colors and the art that is there. So I look forward to seeing what you do with this and your befores and afters, and give us your recipes about what you did and to get to it. And this is fun.